Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm Brendan Lee. In this video I want to talk to you about conflict resolution. Now I'm not going to teach you in this how to resolve conflict. That's not my problem. It's going to be about conflict resolution and more importantly like what conflict resolution might be or is. And let's look into the matter rather than find out what to do about it. Because I assume if you click on this video, you have conflict, you want to resolve it. Let's not resolve it for now, let's get into it. So, let's consider some different components. We could start by asking, what is conflict? What is it? In the sense that, what is conflict made of? So it seems that conflict is... See, how does conflict get to arise? So, just considering with you, if it's basically like two different minds. One mind wants something to be a certain way, and then this other mind does not. That we say then there's a conflict of interest, perhaps. Now, there may be conflicting forces, like we could take it to physics, and okay, if forces conflict with each other, there's like a collision of sorts. But in the context of this video, likely what people are looking at is conflict, human conflict, because that's very important to us. Physics, all right, that's just something that's really outside of our control in a certain sense, and we don't worry about that. So like say you have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, significant other, they want pancakes, you want eggs. And then there's somebody has a position that they want to have happen, and somebody else has a position that they want to have happen, and for some reason there's a collision of positions, mind. So I can definitely see that there's an aspect of desire that happens. Like if I want reality to be a certain way, and then somebody else wants reality to be a way for them that's different than mine. And if I stay fixed on my position, and or I now have that they are responsible for perhaps alleviating my position, like say I want the pancakes really bad. It seems like the conflict is founded on a lot of assumptions, like they need to eat what I eat, for example. I want pancakes, you want eggs. Why not both? But if there's a conflict, like I'm fabricating a conflict here so we can investigate the matter, that means that they have to have the same thing I do. There's an assumption. They have to do things the same way I do. There's something going on. Now, maybe I want pancakes, my partner wants eggs. There's also, what's the problem with them eating eggs and you eating pancakes? Well, we should do it together. We should have a meal together, and it needs to be the same. Okay, well, why not? You see, but then that just tells me that conflict is not something that arises. It's not something that exists just because. It exists only in the minds of the people. If I am going to be hurt or killed, maybe, and I'm in conflict with that reality, which I cannot control, and I'm against it, there will be a conflict. But you can see in some places, I've seen in the video in the animal kingdom, when an animal gets it's going to die, it's being eaten by a lion, it will give up at some point. There's no conflict there. You see, there's not like a conflict of wills. There's not like a struggle. Conflict does seem to be like a struggle. So if I give up completely, there will be no conflict or no struggle. Or if I give up my position, bringing it back to a relational, intimate partnership or relationship, you see, my significant other, you want those fucking pancakes? See, so if I give up on pancakes, or if I'm the pancake person, I would have to give up pancakes. We have eggs. No conflict. Now, what I imagine you might be curious about is, well, if I have a conflict with somebody else, how do we resolve it? Now, we could look at resolution. So conflict, we can see a little bit of how it arises. Now then, what do you do about it? How do you resolve it? Well, again, rather than giving you some tips on resolution, let's look into the matter and see what we can see about that. It seems to me that in order to resolve a conflict, you need two willing participants. Have you ever seen somebody who starts conflict on purpose and they keep producing that? You know, it seems like they're a walking train wreck. You ever put one of those on a team that you have and watch your team crumble, fall apart, watch the environment go to shit? You know, these people are drama factories, you see? Well, they're not willing to let that go, perhaps. And or they don't know they're doing it. So it definitely seems to take two. Or there needs to be some sort of, if there's conflict, and resolution means that there is no more conflict, if that's what resolution means, then it takes both parties to be willing to check out their own stuff. And it seems like there's this thing called compromise where, okay, you want eggs, I want pancakes. Let's resolve this. Now what needs to happen? Okay, willingness on both sides needs to happen. Then seems like there needs to be some communication lines need to be opened up. Hey, you know, I would like to express that I really like pancakes and I am completely fixed on that position. And you want eggs and it looks like you're fixed on that position. What can we do about it? Are you willing to work with me? Great. How about you cook eggs, I'll cook pancakes, and we'll share? You know, propose a solution. And then there may have to be a period of back and forth about that. You know, well, I want eggs. Okay, I want pancakes. What are we going to do? I don't know. Can we share? No, I'm actually not feeling in the mood to share eggs and pancakes. How about to make it feel fair, we do pancakes one day and eggs another day? All right? So, open lines of communication. Another thing we could consider is knowledge of one's own position in one's own mind seems to be beneficial. And what I mean by that is a degree of self-awareness and enough self-awareness to notice that we can be up to a lot of stuff. For example, if somebody says something to me and I get triggered but I don't really know it, all of a sudden it might look like, well, they're causing my pain and it looks like they're doing it intentionally, but that is actually what I'm seeing isn't actually what's occurring. It's something that is programmed in from, say, my past, where now if somebody mentions eggs to me, I have a trauma reaction, fear reaction or something that I'm unaware of, and it just looks like they're a bad person, and now all of a sudden I want to go hide or something. That's a weird example, and it's a weird... I know, we're talking about pancakes and eggs, but my point is, it seems useful in order to be effective. You see, because this conflict resolution, now that I'm very focused on this, like two human beings trying to resolve some shit they got going on, they have to be communicating with one another. Now, communication is not an easy thing to do because people mistake manipulating the other person for actually getting a communication across, which the way I hold communication is you communicate your experience to somebody else and they get it. And again, that takes two willing people. This other person needs to be willing to listen outside of their own agenda, outside of their own wants and needs, and listen to the experience of somebody else. And it's useful not to judge that experience as well. So we've touched on self-awareness, awareness of what you're up to when you are in a social environment or talking to somebody else. You could be projecting onto them. You could have an agenda that you're trying to work out. That, you know, like, oh, if I eat pancakes, I'm driven to eat pancakes because that's how I fix that I don't feel loved. You know, my agenda, this stuff I'm trying to resolve in myself, has accidentally been connected to pancakes. And so now I need to eat pancakes. And if I don't, that's dangerous. Okay, it can be like that. I'm not in this domain. You get the idea. So being aware of one's own self and experience and your own mind and what drives you to be the way that you are, the stuff that you have going on, it can be very, very strong. And I say that like an understatement. I mean strong like a tsunami is strong to a baby. Just that kind of power. And I don't think people really acknowledge that and or really know how strong that is, because they may not have looked that deep. And by deep, I don't mean anywhere else. I mean right here, but like the depths of your experience right now. Right at the bottom, there does seem to be stuff that's very powerful, very automatic, that runs people. Now, for example, look at, say, I don't know, Sunni and Shia. Now, those motherfuckers are arguing over some really dumb stuff as far as I can tell, but to them it's very serious. They kill each other. Man, I looked it up. It's bad. It's arguing. Anyway, it's a bunch of he said, she said stuff. Or look at Western culture versus ISIS, for example. You see, and then ISIS has this thing going on that's like, it is threatening to them. Otherwise, why are they killing people? You see, it's that strong. It's not that joke. And then, so how do you resolve that conflict? You see, what now? Good, great example, great thought. You see how strong that is. Now, if you want conflict resolution on a massive scale, you need to have both people willing to take a look at what they have going on and find a way to compromise and or, well, now that I'm going down this road, you know, if it comes to killing other human beings, if somebody else is committing genocide, well, hey, conflict resolution may look like I'm going to kill you. I don't know. But in that case, that gets a little bit outside of where I'm at with this, so I'm not sure. You know, but can you imagine a ISIS member having some sort of realization or self-realization, realizing that, oh wow, I'm actually killing other people for what? And they have that new awareness. They might be changed. They might be likely to change because it can't be comfortable what they're doing. And it needs to be based on a lie, like a religious idea that is not real. And as far as I can tell here in the States, we're based on other ideas that seem more aligned with peace, welfare of human beings, other stuff like that. Now I know there's a lot of arguments about political welfare and stuff like that, but I'm just saying as a comparison, what we have going on versus what ISIS has going on. Hey, we let women do stuff. They would, nope. We don't kill people for having different religious beliefs. They would. See, these kinds of things. So now back to conflict resolution. Self-awareness is very important. And then willingness to find a middle ground, and or somebody has to give up their position and then the conflict can go away, or you work towards a common goal, and this takes communication, which again can be tricky because if somebody has something going on, like I've been in many conversations with intimate partners, say, I'll say something and then they react to what I say. They don't know I react, and then all of a sudden blame comes back on me and they take what I said sideways or something like that, and vice versa. And the drive that has people do that is not weak. So then I do think perhaps another component of conflict resolution is you got to be disciplined about how you communicate. And communicate in a way that makes a difference toward that end, if we're going to be effective at that. If not, go ahead and fight. That's fine too. You know, you can conflict. There's nothing wrong with conflicting. It's just one is more socially acceptable than the other. So here's one way of communicating that could help. Considering that there's something we do here at Cheng Shin is don't act out and don't suppress. Communicate. And I actually have apprentices running through this, well, not right now, but they run through this stuff. And it really helps keep an environment running smoothly, socially. See, less social conflict. And it's basically like if I have a problem, say somebody doesn't clean up their dish, because they're, say, in a communal environment or something. Somebody didn't clean up their dish and it pisses me off. I might say to them, what would be a normal response? Hey, what the fuck's your problem? You didn't clean up after yourself. Blah, blah, blah. Like, fuck you, basically. Now, that's one way to go. Maybe they change their ways, and then you feel better. In a way that you can, or I'm angry and I go, everything's fine. I love you, honey. Everything's good. See, you suppress, you like squash it down. Don't show it. Right? Now what happens? Well, it's going to get bottled up and it's going to pop out somewhere else. You'll kick the dog or, give it a week and eventually you're going to throw that pan through the window and you'll blow up or whatever. See? That stuff doesn't go away. If you squish it, it pops out somewhere else or explodes or, it'll overwhelm at some point. Or you will just gnarl up inside and then what an experience to live with. So there's a third option, is communication. You could say, hey, when you left that pan in there, I got really angry. And underneath the anger, if anybody has anger problems out there, and you're telling somebody you're angry, but you're leaving out the fact that you're hurt, then I assert that you're actually not really telling the truth about your anger because anger is founded on hurt. So I might say, hey, when you left the pan in the dish, when you didn't clean it, I felt a bit hurt about that. And then I had a desire to scream at you. And I wanted to hurt your feelings back. And you see how different that communication is than, what the fuck's your problem with the blah, 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 you see? And then I'm communicating that. Now, one thing in this type of communication, while you're sharing, one thing I invite apprentices to do with prejudice is the other person is not their job to resolve your pain. If you hold that it is somebody else's job to resolve your pain, it forces you to, one, have to control other people, and this is not healthy. And also, you are putting the source of your pain externally to you. This does not work for having free, open, and healthy relationships. You put the source of your good feelings externally to you. Not a good idea. Now, I'm not saying don't go out and have great feelings with somebody or maybe have some sex and like you feel good with each other. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I'm saying in terms of resolving conflict, if it's their fault that you feel bad, then you're going to be living as if it's not my fault I feel bad. It's somebody else, which means that you don't have any power to change it. You have to change them. And that's not going to work well. So when I invite people to communicate in this way, I invite them to say, you share what's going on with you. Don't expect them to do anything about it. Just have them get it. Now, in a partnership, what I can imagine, and again, this is an idealized imagination. The reality, anybody who's been in an intimate partnership knows that the reality of these kinds of communications happening, slim to none. That's just, until I see it, not that way. That's the way it looks to me. I've never seen it be non-reactive because we trigger each other, especially when we're close, as far as I can tell. We trigger each other easily on the deep stuff that we try to hide from ourselves. And that stuff is no joke. And so that's what you're working with. So now in this conversation, it could be like, well, now that I've communicated I'm hurt, I can also say, I would like to make a proposal. Can you please, or would you please, when you see that dish, could you put some more attention on cleaning it? I would really appreciate it. It would make me feel better. Yeah, sure, honey. Yes, I can do that for you. But if I forget, here's a way you could remind me. And then work out a system and then figure it out. And I'm picking this very small thing to show, and this is something that I'm sure you could relate to. You squeeze the toothpaste from the wrong end of the tube. I hate it when you spit in the sink and you leave your frickin' toothpaste in the drain. Nobody likes to see that. Or, man, all that hair that comes out when you shower, like, why do you leave that on the wall? Like, you see, like, this stuff bothers us, doesn't it? It bothers me. I'm bothered. I get bothered. Okay? And then another thing that I see, so this communication, this way of communicating, don't act out, don't suppress, communicate. Another consideration is doing the work, and I don't mean Byron Katie's the work, I mean work on yourself to become aware and conscious of what you have going on, and notice that conflict, much of it arises within you, and it's because of you. It's because of the shape of you that there is conflict in the first place. You know, we could imagine, again, a fantasy ideal image, which I'm sure wasn't the case. Maybe. We hear tell. You know, Buddha. How would Buddha handle the hair in the sink? Would he flip out? Would it bother him? We imagine a complete Zen-like calm state. Now, my invitation here is not to put on calm and Zen like some sort of fantasy, which this is a trap, and I see many people do is, oh, I'm so spiritual. I'm Zen and calm about everything, but they're fucking lying about how upset things make them. They hide it. They pretend like there's some other way. No, you're lying. If you're doing that, you're lying. Now, if you actually are Zen and calm, completely, good, we'll test it out. We'll eat your baby and see. Does it bother you? See? But if it does, then you got some problems. And I've got some problems because I just ate your baby. But you see what I'm saying? You don't lie about it. But if you are indeed transcendent, use that fancy word, of your own internal struggle, that will go a long way toward relieving struggle externally. For example, you know, I do a lot of martial arts. I have done a lot of martial arts. And some of the guys that are really chill are the guys that fight the most. Because they're used to the violence and they've gotten used to that. They don't have anything to prove. So they're calm. Somebody bumps into them. Okay, no problem. Or they're at a bar. Somebody gets lippy with them. What the fuck's your problem? They're like, hey, man, I don't want trouble. Why? Because they know trouble. They've done that a lot. They don't need to prove anything. You see? So they've resolved that internal... They've resolved that internal fear, that internal struggle. And it makes a difference into the external world, you know. But there are some other martial artists that they don't fight. They're way more tense about stuff. You know, but I go hang out with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, they're real chilled out. Why? Because they've been choked, broken, slammed, they gnarled each other up. They understand fighting each other, and they know what that's like. So they're like, oh, hey, relax. Seems to calm the mind. That's an example. Now you can work on yourself. I'm not saying you need to go out and do martial arts, but you can work on yourself to resolve all of the drives and desires and stuff that has you be in conflict with the world. Maybe you don't like people. You see? But if you look at not liking people, where does that occur? That occurs in your experience. That occurs in your internal experience. It's not out there, but it looks like it is. Why? Because we can project stuff. When you say people, people is, you look out, you see them. And fail to miss and fail to recognize your internal responsibility as if on the matter. And that people is actually something you have inside you, in your mind, as if. And if you are in conflict with people in your mind, guess what? You're going to have problems out there. Or like this guy Stuart Emery said, if you say fuck you to life, it will. You see, because where is life? Your life is, like, your life is not inherent in the objects that are around you. Your life is like something you fabricate in your own internal world. That is like what we generally call your life, like my life. What is a life? You see? And so, circling back, it's like if you resolve the stuff that's at conflict in yourself, you will experience less conflict in the world. That's the way it seems to me. And that doesn't mean that if you resolve the conflict and you have no conflict, that you can't create things. It's like, oh, well, if I resolve everything, I'm at peace. What's the motivation to do anything? Perhaps the motivation can come from a different foundation. Rather than trying to resolve you, it can be something like, no, you know what? I've thought about it. I've decided this is something I want to have be in the world. Let's have it be. Boom. And then you create it. Rather than being driven or fearing something, avoiding stuff, or trying to attain stuff to resolve yourself, you go free of resolution, like a different platform. You got the one where you're driven, and then you got the one that's free of drives, and you just decide, that's what I want. See, that's a possibility. Okay? So that's some things. I can't think of anything else. So circling back, conflict resolution, looking into conflict. How does it arise? What is it? What can you do about it? Ways of communicating. Don't act out, don't suppress, communicate. Some barriers to communication. Resolving stuff in you. Seeing that resolving stuff in you, if you're conflicted inside, the only way you can resolve that is an internal problem, and it requires an internal solution. Only you can do that. No amount of anybody else can as if help you. Now, some people may be able to help you guide your mind so that then you have the realization that it takes to get free. But they didn't do that to you like a mechanical event. They maybe are trained and they can ask you questions and get you to consider and wonder and or dig into things and reveal what's going on for you, because ultimately conflict is something that you are doing. It's not something that just exists. And it just so happens a lot of the doings of these things are extremely automatic and extremely powerful. So it's useful to grasp and to see how the mechanisms work. How the mechanisms come to pass, because then maybe it is as simple as, oh, I'm not going to do that. Then the conflict goes away. But you have to discover if what I said is true, because it could be complete crap. All right, so that's what I've got for you today. You can thank Daniel. He's one of the apprentices. He's like, hey, do a video about conflict resolution. I'm like, all right, I'll give that a try. We're shooting here at the old shack in the back, because the apprentices have the space in there where I normally shoot. So I'm playing around with some different areas to shoot these videos. So my background might be changing, and as I hope that it's not about the background of my video. I would like my backgrounds to be nice. I'm working on it. And what's more important is the communication in the video, not the frickin' background or my clothes, although these are chosen on purpose as well. All right, so that's what I have for you today. Much love. If you want to get semi-serious, check the links in my description. I've got a free course, paid course, hire me to be an online coach. But most importantly, as you know, come do a workshop, because no amount of watching videos or reading books is going to compare to the power of a live event with a highly trained facilitator that can work with you live, okay? Because that's just, you can't do that with video. If you could, there'd be a lot better stuff with people going on in the world. You can't. Okay, so check the links. Come do a workshop. If you want to help spread this work, email me. I want to form a team, and or you can self-autopilot and just start sharing my links and share this work if you want to see it spread in the world. Unfortunately, the work that I do is, what do we call that, niche? Very niche, extremely niche, and not known by a lot of people. And if you think it's worth it, unfortunately, we're in a certain cultural stage where nobody knows about it. So if you do want more people to know, you're going to have to be the one to tell them. Okay, this is my way of telling people. And I want to invite you to share as well. So thank you very much. Much love. Take care. Till next time. And I'm Brendan Lee with thebrendanlee.com in support of consciousness and skill worldwide, which is founded by Peter Ralston. Ciao.